I have 5 fabulous panelists that I really want you guys to hear about. Andrea Horblitt.
Yeah.
She is so cool. She's got these lollipops called Sukitz, and she's also going to give you a sneak peek about something she can't tell you the name of. That's a diet thing. So she used to be she is a model. That's what she came to New York for, modeling, and she's got this huge e-commerce business with her lollipops. You want to take 2 minutes about?
Should I start? You want me to tell you about?
2 minutes.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's like an honor to be recognized as someone who can shake up the industry. But I want you to know I've only just begun. My next project is going to redefine the snack and food industry, and what I'm doing online with this new brand is going to shape how food marketing should be done. I did start Sukitz, Sukitz. It is an energy lollipop. I'm rebranding and we are relaunching in 6 months so that my lollipop company will now consist of a vitamin lollipop, an amino acid lollipop, a all-natural energy pop, and a cold and flu pop. Sukitz was my first project that I did on my own. I've been a brand consultant for many celebrities. I've consulted on multiple applications. I've consulted on many consumer good products. But right now I'm really focused on my new snack company. I was a model. I came to New York as a model, so I have a little bit of a different perspective on the marketplace. I am trained as a brand marketer. And I became a guerrilla marketer, and I understand product development. And based on my product development experience, I guess I'm now a food technologist because I play with flavors and I play with all these new food technologies. So
Cool.
That's kind of me in a nutshell, and I'll tell you more after everybody else presents.
Okay, so Warner, 2 minutes. I know it's mobile guest management for restaurants, but I still don't understand it.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Sure, so I'm the co-founder and CEO of BuzzTable. We started a little over 2 years ago, so we were incorporated. The idea actually came up about 3 years ago, so I'll kind of give how the idea came up. We were at a popular restaurant on kind of a gross August night, and we went to put our name on the list, and they said it would be about 45 minutes, and we had to wait outside, and we said, that sucks, we take our phone number, we're going to go grab a beer across the street. They said, no, you can't do it, so we ended up kind of getting pissed, and we ended up walking away. And that's kind of the first light bulb where we said, this is ridiculous. Everybody has a phone, and restaurants, not so many here in New York, use those vibrating hockey pucks that you see at P.F. Chang's. So why not create an iPad app that actually connects the customer and the guest, and then the customer can then go free to roam or go grab a beer. So that was kind of the first light bulb. When we started looking into the opportunity, we thought, how big of an idea is it? How big is the market for restaurants that need a paging system? So we kind of took it a step further, and we said, well, what if we could actually get an app that was downloaded on the customer's phone, so then the restaurant could have a bi-directional database. So just like a direct mail, email, social database, now they can have an actionable mobile database of their customers. So our platform consists of 3 parts. We have the waitlist system for hosts that sits in the front of house and texts the guests when a table's ready. If you have a smartphone, you can click on a link, download an application that'll show you where you are on the list. You can look at the menu. You can provide feedback. You can unlock rewards. So it's kind of a full CRM system for restaurants. And that's the app for guests. And then the last part is the control center for operators, and that is a web-based dashboard for the back of house where you can see everything from host analytics and what the quoted wait time versus the actual wait time is, all the way through to guest data and demographics that we've collected from the app.
Cool. Sandra is Hot Bread Kitchen. What I understand is that it's an incubator program that supports food entrepreneurs and the sustainable growth of their culinary ventures. Is that what it's about?
Correct. Hot Bread Kitchen is a nonprofit. I'm the program director of HBK Incubates, and that's one of our 2 programs. Our first program that we originally started is a workforce development program where we hire and train low-income immigrant women to become bakers and help them advance in the culinary field. So we have that program, and the program that I run and support is our incubator program, very much like a tech accelerator or incubator. We're a kitchen culinary incubator. So many of you may or may not know that it's illegal to make food from home and to sell it. So you need to be in a licensed commercial kitchen, so we provide the space for specialty food producers. It can go from caterers to bakers to specialty products like cocktail bitters or lollipops or whatnot. So we provide business development support for these startup entrepreneurs, the commercial kitchen space to help them formalize, and also a culinary community that they can grow and connect with others. So any business, we have a number of businesses that are doing, utilizing food tech things, and some that are implementing tech, strategies within their product. And then also we partner with a lot of food tech companies to support our entrepreneurs in our program.
Where is it?
We are in East Harlem. Our commercial kitchen space houses both programs, the bakery training program, and then also the incubator space.
Great. Anna is the creator of a cookbook Create, and you can, for friends and family, is what I gather, you can organize your own recipe book. Do you want to do 2 minutes?
Sure. So my name is Anna Curran. I'm the founder of Cookbook Create, and we're a platform where you can print on demand, publish your own cookbook. So we help people tell their own story through food. You can add your own recipes to the site, design your own book, add your own photos, and then order print on demand copies, similar to Snapfish or Shutterfly. People often ask me where the concept came from, and I guess it was more than a year and a half ago. I was looking through a family cookbook. My aunt had given this notebook to my mother back in 1969, and it had a dozen recipes handwritten in the front of the book. My mom added to this cookbook over the years. And I was looking for this one recipe that my grandmother used to make for my father when he was little, these chocolate drop cookies. And as I was leafing through the pages in this book, I saw that all of these recipes had significance, and they were relevant to a particular moment in time or an acknowledgement of a particular person in the family or a particular relationship. And what I was left with was this question, which is, what's the digital version of this cookbook, and how can I enable other people to produce their own cookbooks and tell their family stories and collect all of the recipes that are important and that really matter to them. And that sort of sparked the vision for the company, and started building the site. Soon after I had that concept, and have been working on it ever since. One of the things we're working on right now as a marketing initiative is we're producing an official cookbook for South by Southwest for the Interactive Festival. So we've collected recipes from 101 past speakers, everyone including Jonah Peretti, who's co-founder of Huffington Post and BuzzFeed. He created the share button on the internet, which is pretty cool. We have the recipe from him. We have recipe from Brandon Zuckerberg and 101 other digital innovators. And that book will be coming out in March in conjunction with South by Southwest.
And I forgot to say that Joe didn't speak. You want to talk about your next funding session? Just about food next week?
Sure. August 29th, I'm running a full-day food investing conference called Ingest Invest. And it's basically bringing together a whole bunch of angel investors, VCs, and food tech entrepreneurs.
Where
it's
is
at the International Culinary Center in downtown New York. And I have a discount code for anyone here. If anyone does want to come, just come see me and I'll give you a code to save some money.
That's great. Okay, so like I said, you can just ask questions, raise your hand. David Carlos, who's our moderator and wonderful guy, and you can have 1 minute.
It's actually my job title is wonderful guy.
He's going to keep everyone in check. So David, you can talk about MyHomePage, but just like you only get 30 seconds.
I'm not
30
a food person, so you can't eat my homepage or anything that we produce unless you have very strange dietary requirements. We're a startup in the residential real estate space, so we basically build websites for people who live in big buildings, and we've got a whole set of online communication tools. But we're not here to talk about me, we're here to talk about these guys. So if you want to hear more about me, find me later. All right, guys, so I want to start with sort of a question about cool. Cool is a great word. I love the word cool because everybody has a different interpretation of it, and it's a very loaded word. So the question is, what is the coolest thing that has happened in your startup? What makes your startup either cool or some activity, some event, some horrible, nightmarish thing that happened that you're like, and looking back in hindsight, that was really cool. So I'm going to go down the line. So we'll start with Sandra.
Very food related, but I think we're so cool because we are the United Nations of Bread and International Food. I think that makes us very cool since we have 2 programs. Our breads represent from all countries around the world, and then all of the food businesses that we support are amazing and all have really cool products. We have a company that does edible cups, cocktail cups, and they have different flavors that you can match with different cocktails, and that's very cool to us. All of our producers have very specialty products, so we have another company that does cocktail bitters, so they get to partner with each other in special events. Everything from, we have Ethiopian catering to an ice cream truck that we support, and so I think all the businesses that represent our program make it very cool.
That is extremely cool. Excellent. Andrea, same question.
So I'm a product developer who is a marketer. So everything I do, I look for cool. When I market, when I niche out the product that I'm going to be
Did you just
making.
use niche as a verb?
Yes, I niche out a market. That's how I determine what I'm going to be manufacturing, what I'm going to be putting my time and my effort towards. So for example, Sukitz. Sukitz is actually a funny story that I ain't go into. Obviously, I created an energy lollipop because I wanted 5-hour energy to acquire me because it's a $1 billion industry. And I went into the food industry because it's a $500 billion industry a year. So that's where I started, and that to me is very cool. And I wanted to do an energy lollipop because I came up with a viral marketing campaign. How many different ways can you suck a Sukitz? Ha ha ha. And I kind of saw it being something similar to planking and owling and how people could, put on YouTube the different ways they could say suck a Sukitz. And I haven't ran this campaign yet, and I'm planning on running this campaign, but it's an instant viral effect. And it's an effect based around what will be cool, and being cool is the actual campaign.
Nice. So you are essentially a professional double entendre creator. All right. Yeah.
So, am I the only person that just wants to yell out, "Suck it"?
How many different ways can you suck it? Where are they?
Yeah, that's
We're reconfiguring the product, even though they are good. I believe in all natural now, and my first model was not natural. I'm going with my consumer because my consumer doesn't think that being like synthetic and using encapsulated energy instead of green tea energy is not cool to them because they're all organic and natural now. So like there we are, cool again.
Joe.
I had like 4 of those 5-hour energies just like 5 minutes ago. So anyway, so coolest thing that I think in my business as a startup that I can remember is not necessarily like the product. I always have like, you always have the great ideas like, oh, let me make something that is like this. I think the coolest day for me personally is when somebody actually bought it, the first $1 that I ever made. And that was just, it's always been just the most, like the coolest day ever. It doesn't matter how much it is, just like somebody else was like, that's cool, I'll buy it, and that was always a day that made me just sit back and reflect and be like, holy shit, now it's real, So that's always been the coolest day for me.
Now, was that a physical dollar bill, or was it?
No, it's a signed one that I put on the wall, right? It's the credit card. I can't print out the receipt, I guess, but not the same. But still, just when somebody bought something from me, and I'm like, I run the conferences, and I'm always like, all right, I'm doing this conference. Will anybody ever show up? And when somebody's like, yeah, I'll buy a ticket. That looks awesome. And I'm like, oh, that's what's cool for me. So.
What do you sell again?
What do I sell? I run conferences, so I run conferences in 22 different cities around the country. Investor events, basically educating entrepreneurs on raising capital.
He's a VC in Asia too. Only in food?
No, so the conferences are in every industry. I just happen to be doing the food conference next week. I also run Archangel Fund, which is a small fund in Manhattan We invest in early stage tech companies, including food tech. We did 2 food tech deals in the past year and a half or so. And I run an angel group called FP Angels, and we are basically just individual angel investors that write checks into deals.
What were your 2 food tech?
We did iJukebox, which is a music company. So so when you walk into a restaurant like Red Robin, and you can go to the desktop like ordering system and be like, I want a burger with cheese, and you press that. You can also order your music from there, and it goes onto your check. So it's like the new version of the old jukebox that you put the money right there. Additionally, we did a company called Uptown Networks, and it's basically like a digital sommelier, where it helps you pair your wine with your dinner.
All right, Warner, time to be cool.
Yeah, so, running a technology company with how competitive it is out there to attract talent, you have to have a certain cool factor, otherwise you're gonna get passed up. I guess it's probably not as intense as out in San Francisco, where you got, you still have Google here with their sushi chefs and all that type of stuff. As a bootstrapped startup.
Wait, you don't have a sushi chef?
Not yet.
How do you expect?
But we do have something. We do have something pretty close to that. So, since our product is in some of the busiest restaurants around New York, we dog food our product. So we like to go out and actually see our product in action, specifically when we bring in new people. So has anybody eaten at Incubates, the ramen noodle place?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They've got crazy 2-hour waits. I get to walk in there and just walk right to the table, so that's pretty cool. So every month we go to one of our restaurants. We've been to Dinosaur Barbecue a ton of times. I don't know if you guys have been there. Fantastic barbecue. So it's great to be able to eat a lot of food at some of the cool restaurants, and then every quarter. We also do a large team event. It's going to get more difficult now that we're starting to grow a little bit more, but last fall we did a camping trip with a lot of alcohol involved, which was fun.
Alcohol in the woods.
Yeah, alcohol in the woods was good. No injuries. We did a ski trip. Back in February, and then our most recent kind of large trip was we crammed all 8 of our employees into a 32-foot RV, and we drove from New York City to Chicago for the National Restaurant Association show, and tweeted and got picked up by them, and it was a cool experience. We're hacking away our various ways on the road, so it was fun.
Great. Anna?
No camping trips here.
Lots of alcohol.
I will say, well, sometimes. I don't think that we actually strive to be cool. We strive to be warm. So our product, honestly, I'm not trying to be trite. Our product really is about helping people to celebrate their human connections, and so probably one of the coolest things was seeing my first order come in and seeing the preview of the customer's cookbook and seeing how much warmth there was, and that it really was a celebration of how much this one woman loved her mother, and she had made this cookbook for her mother, and it had all of these recipes in it and little stories and pictures and all these moments, and and that was really touching. So I think for us it's not being cool, it's being warm, and it's celebrating that warmth.
Yeah, my first technology company was actually a IT services firm that we called Computer Bakery.
Yeah.
And the name came specifically because of the association of baked goods with warmth and comfort and happiness. We did a lot of residential work as well as some small business stuff. So the idea there was that it was very friendly and warm and inviting. And so I'm right there with you. All right, so next question. Food tech obviously attracted you all for a reason, right? Why food? Was it because you love food itself? Is it because you are a brilliant business person who realizes that food is a $1 trillion industry, or something in between? So I am going to let the first person who speaks answer.
Both.
Okay, so why? Elaborate. Both is not. Oh, no. You jumped into the pool. You're wet now, boy.
No, Well, no, everybody loves food. I mean, and, you know, everybody loves good food, right? And it's a huge industry. I mean, we see food deals, we see how many people are using these things and what the opportunity is. And, you know, when we saw what kind of numbers these guys were pulling in and just like beta tests, you know, and what their technology looked like, we were like, this is obvious, you know, we gotta check it out, so.
Yeah. I'm planning a pivot right now as we speak.
Send me your plan.
I chose the food industry. It's like I spent half my career, I've had a career prior to this. I was a regular model and then I was a plus size model, so I was on a diet my entire life. So it was like an accident that I chose this industry because I was avoiding food for my entire life. And you know, I was actually in applications prior, and being that I was in applications, there's hundreds and thousands of applications out there, and I love both of what you're doing down there. Like, I think what they're doing is great. I couldn't niche out an app that was strong enough for me to go out and crack that market, and I was able to do some really cool thing in the food market. I think that the food technologies that people are coming up with that I'm able to use in my brands are strong and will redefine how people and how you and how I and how the end user look at food. Very much so how it's kind of like what Facebook did for the internet is what we're gonna see in food in the next few years. It's organic, it's natural, you know, there hasn't been a huge movement or a huge shift in what has happened in the food industry until now. You know, Pop Chips was the very beginning. You know, 5 Hour Energy, still the beginning. Food should taste good. Skinny popcorn, I want you to know skinny popcorn has 10 grams of fat in a bag. I mean, right now, my next product line is all about dieting. I don't think there's one snack company out there that is doing the diet snack product right. And that's what I'm attacking. And right now, it's not their fault they're not doing it right. Until now, there wasn't enough out there so they could do it right. So.
Are there any questions from the audience? Because I see, okay, quick one.
This has to goes back to what you had said, that you were going to start this. You're going to start a social media campaign based on Sukitz or whatever.
Different ways to suck it. We're back to Sukitz. Yes. 20 Sukitz for the Tootsie Pop.
So my question is, I thought that was a fascinating, very bold thing to say. Is how do you know that resonates?
How many different ways to suck Sukitz?
Yeah. How do you like? You're like, oh, it's going to go viral.
How do I know it's going to go viral?
Yeah.
Well, I force my user engagement, right? So user engagement is how the audience interacts with the brand. So if you look at Sukitz and you look at the campaigns that I've already ran with Sukitz, I like to incorporate what celebrities with Sukitz. So celebrities drive user engagement, and then my programs that I incorporate within that are an extension of that. Are you following what I'm saying?
I'm going to tell you how I feel. Sounds so inauthentic to me.
Well, it's, you're not, my user's 14, my user's 14 through 23.
Right.
So how many different ways to suck a Sukitz is gonna be like a funny, catchy, trendy thing for them. Because if Miley Cyrus gets on there and is like, or I pay a celebrity to go and do it, it's a trendy thing, you build it up with celebrity and predetermine, you know, other users, and you get people to fill it, that's how you do it.
Any other questions before I fill the space with my own? Yes.
Okay, quick question, perhaps for the confection lady. Is anybody on the panel using 3D printing to create food? It's in the confection side by printing sugar, so I wonder if anybody else has got anything going on.
I do use it when I'm layering my flavors on my new product lines.
Right.
We have a cake pop business, and she does all corporate logos and those sort of things, so she's printing sheets of confection.
3D printing's like transforming everything. Yes.
A question actually for Joe, but any of you can chime in. I've had so many ideas that I haven't acted on, that other people have done, and I'm kicking myself. Then the other part of me says, wait a second, look at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Maybe the better strategy is see something I like that someone's doing and do it myself. copy it, because like it's working, copy it, and put my own twist on it. What do you think about that from an investor perspective?
Well, so let me answer your first question first. So many ideas that you've had that you haven't acted on, and all of a sudden somebody pops up with, and you're like, oh man, I thought of that like 3 years ago, right? I mean, everybody has done that, right?
Right.
I mean, like, it is what it is. Everybody's got amazing
But where do you
ideas.
think,
It's
it's
not a
already
business
done?
though until you actually say, all right, I'm gonna start working at this thing, 12 hours a day, and making it happen, that it's actually, all right, well then, all right, well, it's patented. Now it's really your business, not just an idea. Everybody has ideas for, the flying car. Well, eventually someone's gonna have it, right? And I thought of that like 10 years ago, right? So it's just, it's just irrelevant. I mean, everybody has these amazing ideas for stuff, right? Unless you do anything, you didn't do it.
Right, but then I'm saying that sometimes you think like, oh, it's
now-
already been done, I'm not gonna do it.
Well, now number two, right? So, should you think of your own idea, or should you just like see someone else who's doing something great and just rip them off, right? I guess, right? Like, go for it. I mean, it's not. There's lots of competitors out there. If you have an amazing idea, like you think of that thing, I guarantee you, in a couple of months, someone else is going to have the competitive thing they're going to call it originally theirs, and there's going to be like slightly different, and then like 10 other companies are going to do it, right? And everybody's going to have it. So, do you need to be first? Is the only business you should start one where you're like, oh my God, there is no competition whatsoever on the planet for this thing that I thought of and I can do it? Should that be the only business you ever start? No. I mean, I think that if you see something that's out there, the current way of doing things, and you can do it better, then that's how most businesses get started, because they're building on, all right, so they make it like this, but it doesn't really work like this. I think it would be better if you had this thing on the side here and it went like this. And that's where like the innovation happens, and that's where companies start to grow, where I see a lot.
I'll speak to that as well. So there have been a number of companies that have built waitlist products, and we're not the first text-based waitlist system whatsoever. JTech, who builds the hockey pucks, I think their first one came out in like 2008. So they tried doing this, a while ago. But people were reluctant to give up their cell phone numbers. They didn't have a system like Twilio that we use to send our SMS that worked across all platforms. So consumers weren't ready for it, and the technology wasn't really there. So a lot of it is timing as well. And then also a lot of people are trying, it's very difficult to sell into restaurants. So selling a waitlist product into a restaurant one by one is very difficult. So, I'll agree with Joe's points. It's first to market you have first market mover advantage at times, but a lot of people don't get it right. And the perfect example would be look at, Classmates.com, Friendster, MySpace, Facebook. So, I mean, Facebook did something that had been done for a number of years, but they got it right in terms of their user experience, their user interface, exactly what they allow people to customize, not customize. So it really depends on execution and either figuring out whether you can improve on something or analyzing why people aren't doing it right. So for example, for us, the waitlist was great, but then we saw a much bigger opportunity in actually turning it into a marketing platform, which is kind of our eventual goal.
I'm sorry.
To build on that, I don't know if any of you follow the lean startup movement, but if Steve Blank was here, he would say, startups don't put other startups out of business, it's inability to capture your market that puts you out of business. So it's not that there's someone else who's doing something in that space that's going to kill your opportunity, it's that you're not actually able to access your market in an effective way before you run out of capital.
Don't just do it a little bit better, do it a lot better. Don't just make it, oh, well, ours is red. Well, that's the difference, you're red. Like, make it like so much better that everyone else that's using everything else has to change to what you're doing, because it's that much better.
And it creates stickiness too. That's another thing.
Yeah, consumer engagement's huge. You could get it's a huge market out there. Get them from a different angle that somebody else isn't.
Look at Google. What is it, 13th search engine out of the 90s, and they dominate the market today? Please.
And from the perspective of supporting different food businesses, I can't tell you how many applications we get for cupcakes or baked goods. But it is, the food industry is a how many $billion industry. If you just capture even a little percentage of that, you're still getting enough of that sales. And so we always look for businesses that are doing something but in a unique, differentiator way, and being able to look at other competitors, seeing how they're doing their packaging saves you a whole bunch of money. If you're like, oh, I shouldn't do it like that. There's a reason why they're on the shelves and have that size label or whatnot. So there's a lot of learnings from their competitors.
Microsoft bought everything. Google has what's smart. Right?
And real quick on that note, in terms of kind of catching trends and just going with them, where everybody has the new cupcake, it's like how small can cupcakes get? People are gonna have like nimble cupcakes. But
Somebody will come up with a giant cupcake.
yeah, exactly. And I see the same thing happening in the, you know, I guess I'm kind of talking more from an operational technology perspective with the market that I'm in, but if you look at how many people are chasing OpenTable right now, it's pretty incredible. Everybody wants to basically knock OpenTable off their pedestal. What people don't realize that when you look at the market, there's about 980,000 restaurants in the United States. I think it's growing, it's probably going to be close to 1 million. When you look at how many restaurants in the United States take reservations, it's 30,000. So it's a 30,000 pool that OpenTable has over 50% market share in, and everybody is trying to chase OpenTable because OpenTable is one of the only billion-dollar technology companies that's been created besides Micros and NCR and the POS companies. For us, we're looking at the casual dining space. So when you fly from New York to San Francisco, which are two kind of OpenTable cities, everything you fly over, they're not booking on a reservation platform. They're going to a TGI Fridays on a Thursday night, and there's a wait there, and they hand you a buzzer. So there's 220,000 casual dining restaurants. So the market for casual dining is massive compared to the 30,000 that take reservations. So it's kind of incredible to me that so many people have something better than OpenTable when, I don't know. I just think that they're chasing a trend that is not really going anywhere.
Can I ask you, you mentioned how hard restaurants were to get into.
Yes.
Like, did you do it by having boots on the ground, going door to door?
We did.
Did you try to do mass, getting a lot at one time, or did you just try doing a few well?
We started by going door to door in New York City. Actually, the first restaurant we ever had was Dinosaur Barbecue up in Harlem. Cold email. I'm a sales guy. I worked at Clear Channel for a number of years, so I know how to grind in terms of getting my way in the door. We sold our product off of strictly wireframes, so we didn't have the product built. But the great part was by doing that, we were actually able to get feedback through the development process. So we started by going door to door, but we realized that would not scale, and that's how a lot of our competitors, I believe, probably were running out of capital. So over the past 2 years, particularly the last 9 months, we've kind of turned from an outbound to an inbound. There's people out there searching for buzzers. It's a pretty easy no-brainer when someone goes to buy a JTAC pager system to use our system. So we're optimizing kind of our inbound funnel, creating content, leading people to the website. We have 1 to 5 restaurants per day signing up, and we're on a team of 9 with 4 on the sales side.
And did the buzzer sky go to you?
What's that?
Has the buzzer sky go to you?
We were at the National Restaurant Show, and the CTO of Micros came up and said we should figure out how to integrate. We said no, thank you. We don't need Micros knowing every detail about what we're doing.
Right.
I find it interesting. This is absolutely fantastic, and the food tech is really cool stuff. I was involved in starting something called the Entrepreneur program. Last year's worldwide winner was Chobani. Now, you've got to sit back and say yogurt, and you know the names in yogurt between your plays, and how did Chobani come from nowhere to be the big brand? So if you ask a question, can you knock off somebody and do it better? Or a perfect example, just an absolute perfect example.
Exactly my question. When investors, do they look at that as a plus, as the market, they see the market, or as a negative percentage there?
I think if they see that you have the traction, that's the key. Remember, when you were at ERM, we used to talk about doing the one at a time, right? That was really tough. The hook always was, how do you get 4 at once? One concept was go to the chains.
Yeah, I'll give you the way to win in the VC, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You have to prove a repeatable, scalable sales process. And the old cost to acquire lifetime value ratio needs to work out where venture capitalists, when they're looking at companies, they're not looking for a company that's going to be a multi-million-dollar company. They really truly need to believe that you'll get to $100 million top line in a 5-year period. Blowing up, sorry.
Happy hour, just ignore it.
I'm feeling like
It's
I
kind
need
of
to
a quiet
get a
ringer, right?
No phone here.
Sorry.
I just
Just put it on concrete, throw it really hard at the ground and stop.
So I really think that's the key is, you know, there's different types of venture capitalists. There's the B2C, which, you know, all they care about is user growth. I've been more in the B2B bucket where we need to prove out revenue and how we're actually going to become a profitable company. But if you can get that ratio down of how you can sell your product at scale very quickly, that's where you're going to get a lot of money dumped in. But the other thing is that, you know, everybody chases after venture capital, and it's not a form of fundraising for everybody. So you need to determine whether venture capital is actually the best fit for you. You have to determine whether you want someone that may steer your company a little bit different because they're trying to make a massive dent in, you know, a lot of these big firms nowadays putting a couple of $1 million in and getting a $10 or $20 million return doesn't do anything for a fund that's making $4 million. So you actually need to be able to prove that you're going to have, you know, $50, $100 million exit.
Question in the back.
So for anybody on the panel, how are you guys getting critical mass and engagement, and that sustainable engagement versus a one-time hit?
So I'm a guerrilla marketer. I rely heavily on my celebrities. I am my market penetration. With Sukitz, it was celebrities. With the new brand that I'm launching, it's based around the new brand that I built. I build brands that are brands that you think you've already heard of. I studied under someone by the name of George Lois. He's the guy that did the I Want My MTV campaign. And all my brands that I have done in the past are familiar. So with this one brand, you're like, oh yeah, I know it. And it's something that's relatable, so they're gonna grab it. And my product that I built around it is something that they're gonna be like, oh, that exists. And what I am doing is a calorie, I'll give you, it's a calorie-free cupcake is one of the products that I have. It's high in fiber, high in protein, 3 grams of sugar. It's something that everybody's gonna want, but the brand relates to it. And it is marketed to win. And that's kind of how I get it, and it's a great product, so they come back for it.
I'll give a perfect example of someone that, a company that didn't do it right but is trying to do it right now is Groupon. Groupon made $1 billion because they made $1 billion because they figured out how to get people to try something once or twice. They had a ton of people that tried it. They put $1 billion in the bank, and now they're reinvesting it in companies like Breadcrumb, which is an iPad-based POS system, trying to have multiple touch points. And you know, my company, we've been thinking about that from the beginning. How can we make sure this is something that's used on a daily basis? Unfortunately, our waitlist product isn't quite that yet because it only works for a certain type of restaurant, the busiest restaurants, and a lot of restaurants only on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights and brunches and things like that. So we're actually building on top of it. We've got a big product launch coming up in about 2 weeks that's going to start allowing the restaurant to use it outside of waitlist times. And it's something that that's really important to us because the stickier it gets, the more it gets ingrained in operations and something that they want to go to every single day. That paired with all the customer data, so they can see results on a continual basis. That's really how you want something that someone's going back to on a daily basis, whether it's a consumer app, whether it's a product. Starbucks, you need that coffee. You need to try to figure out a way to make your product a go-to product on a daily basis.
Right, but your clientele is a B2B. Are you trying to reach B2C so that they walk into a restaurant and only want your product, otherwise they're not waiting?
So that's a good question. So we're a B2B2C company. So we also have a consumer app. So the consumer app is distributed through the waitlist. It all starts with the waitlist. Right now our product doesn't have a ton of value outside of the restaurant.
Right.
Before the end of the year, we will add the ability for people to add themselves to the list ahead of time. So if you think about that, it's almost kind of like a a real-time open table, where people can actually sit in their apartment or sit at their home, add themselves to the list. When they show up, there's a customer profile inside of the waitlist application, and then the restaurant can actually know your preferences.
So how are you getting scale to that? Because
how are we getting scale to what?
We can all have great products.
Scale to the consumer side?
Scale in any side of the business, right? Because that's the win-win. The win-win is we can all have great businesses, and I am sure in this room, I would gather that 75% of the people here have great businesses, but the key to success is that scale, and how do you
Right.
get that scale?
What about the other 25%?
Yeah.
They're gonna learn.
Consumer interaction and consumer engagement is what I do a lot
Right, and how do
of.
you get it, right? Because celebrities cost a lot of money, and if everybody uses celebrities, I could get celebrities for free too. I get it.
No, I'm not saying that, but like, I'm saying you create programs that incentivize the consumer, whatever market you're in, whatever product you have, to engage them. I don't care if you're just a local-based product that's based in like your own community. You create engagement and interaction through whatever you're selling, whatever app, whatever phone, whatever restaurant it is that you have that creates engagement and make that consumer feel like they're a part of you, like the local family restaurant type of thing. It's interaction, they feel like they're a part of you.
It all comes down to marketing at the end of the day.
That's-
That's
it's
pretty much
brilliant
it.
marketing.
She could have 400,000 Sukitz in her garage, right? And no one would know about
That's my
it.
point.
But she's out like talking about the calorie count and this and that. She's out here promoting herself. I speak every like 17-year-old
So what's
who's
the
like, I'm going to
marketing
college. What should any advice for me? I'm like, I give the standard like, wear a condom, right? But take a marketing class. Take a marketing class.
Safety first.
Because if you're not, when you get into like real life, you're selling. I don't care what you're doing, whatever anybody here's doing, you're selling something. You're selling yourself, you're selling your business, selling your product, you're selling a something. You have to know how to sell whatever it is that you're doing, because otherwise no one's buying.
And just real quick, it's also making sure that, it's brilliant marketing that is, again, I'll go back to the scalable, repeatable, something you can do again where you can't do like a quick hit. And nothing against viral, but viral is difficult because it's something to do over and over and constantly come up with fresh creative, and some things hit, some things don't. But if you can create like direct mail, I'll give you like direct mail. That's a great way to reach people, and it's cheap. And if you can create something.
Cost effective.
Thank you.
Never wanted
My old
cheap.
sales manager would have killed me for saying cheap, yeah, no one's cheap.
I'm a marketer.
But exactly, but that's the point, is that you want to find something that actually creates a positive ROI, something that you can do over and over again. And that's what's going to drive to the critical mass that you discussed.
So the internet's direct mail, email marketing. So Facebook is able to get a lot of early traction by sending all of the user notifications. So for us, we look at how do you create engagement from a product design standpoint, and so how do you actually, we're in process of learning from our consumers right now, how do we inspire our users to reach out to their friends and their family and tell them about our site, and what product features can we build that they'll be so excited about that they want to share it with others. So we're looking at it from email trigger campaign standpoint, and then also having shareable features within the product.
So I have a question for Sandra. I'm going to put you in the spotlight because I think you have a brilliant answer to this. What is the biggest challenge that you, as an entrepreneur, have faced in starting a company or being involved in a startup company that you've been able to overcome, and like how did you turn that lemon into lemonade? Because I know there's one. I can feel it. I sense it.
Well, I support entrepreneurs, so I guess it's a different perspective. Our challenge has been finding the right entrepreneur to really launch and graduate into the real food world. We've seen many glossy business plans, and we've learned that doesn't translate to a great business. So we've had a number of businesses that applied and put in applications and got into the program and did not sell a single thing. So really, sales are the lifeline of the business, and without sales, you're never going to grow, scale, get a consumer that you, and the growth that you need. So we've definitely seen one business, he started off with recipes with his aunt, starting in a home kitchen, got into some stores, started to increase his market presence by also going to food events like Smorgasburg and increasing his presence there. And then being with Horblitt Kitchen, we introduced him to Whole Foods. He got into more accounts, he started to hire production staff, hire market staff, and really grow and scale his business. And then he eventually got too big for our space and then graduated out. So for us, the challenge is it's difficult to find. He never had a single sale before he came to us. And so it's like, should we take this chance on this business who has never made a sale, but he knew what it took to get his product into these stores that he needed to watch it grow and launch.
Actually, I have a question for the.
Okay, you guys.
I have a question for the kitchen innovators. So what kind of, I guess, service or is this a sort of a mentoring, or what is it that you provide these people that want to make their product in your facilities? Do they have to have a business idea, or can they just show up and say, I like cooking and I'll figure something out?
Well, commercial kitchen access is the biggest asset that we provide to businesses. It gives them an opportunity to grow and scale their business in a licensed space without having to invest in your own restaurant, your own lease, and buying commercial food can be very expensive. So there's an opportunity for you to gain more customers, grow your sales, test the market. You know, then you're not out of how many hundreds of thousands of dollars in a restaurant or a space in Manhattan to test this one product. So that's a big asset, and you have to get licensed in the space, so you need an actual address, and things like that. And business development support is the other thing that we provide, and that really involves monthly workshops that we have experts come in for, ranging from food, logo, label design, employment law, access to capital. We invite different panelists to come, and so different resources for these entrepreneurs. We also have a finance advisor on staff, which works one-on-one with businesses on everything from pricing to budgeting to these sales goals. So these are things that are very valuable as an entrepreneur and starting up as a small food business. And then also a culinary community, which is really important. It's lonely being a food entrepreneur, and to be in a space with other entrepreneurs doing very similar, struggling with the same challenges, distribution, sourcing your ingredients, what markets are you at, how do you sell this, where'd you get your nutrition labels, and all these things that you can be in a space with very supportive community. It's great. Yeah.
So are you more like an incubator, or are you more like a tech shop for food and anyone can sign up and use the facilities?
We are a incubator. We think of a little chipling that we give them support and warmth and resources, and then they eventually grow, and then they fly off to their own restaurant, bakery, commercial kitchen space. And so it is for the home, like the motivated entrepreneur who has outgrown their home kitchen. Someone who's been producing from home, like, oh my goodness, we're getting these orders, people love our things, we need to grow, we need to scale, we can't do this from one little oven in our kitchen. We need a commercial kitchen with multiple racks and different range and large fridge space, and you can't do that unless you get your own space and come to our commercial. People come and visit. You contact me, I will give you a tour.
The question was, if people want to come visit the facility, can they do that? So, yeah. Yeah.
So since you're kind of talking about this food, like, I think we're sitting here and saying, you guys have such cool ideas, but how do you do it? How do you start it? And that's cool. That's like a really cool way to start it. But like Warner, you said you had the wireframes, and then you pitched it, I guess, to individual restaurants, and then from there, do you have 50 restaurants before you got funded or anything like that, or how did it work for you? And then for Andrea, you have to differentiate yourself. And then obviously you need, the sentence you need to have a product. Like, how
So form it, one sentence,
how did
question mark.
everyone pitch to get funded, I guess, and how did that work?
Yeah, I'll start. We got kind of, I don't know, I guess you'd call it kind of a shortcut, which is we went to an incubator.
Okay.
We were part of Entrepreneurs Roundtable Accelerator, ERA. We were part of their first class. So we had an idea. It was something that we spent, again, we came up with the idea August 2010. We met over beers a couple times before the end of the year. What kind of sparked us...
Were you working like full time at the time?
I had a previous startup. So I had a consulting company that helped ad tech companies pitch and present and close deals with brands and agencies. So we came up with the idea, spent some time on it, and then my sister, actually right after, my younger sister sent me an email, because I was probably talking about it over the holidays, said, doesn't this sound like your idea? It was like a husband and wife team down in Arizona that built this iPad app, and I was like, man, this ship's taking off. So we either got to hop in and start working on this, or it's going to be that type of thing where I wish I had that idea. So we then spent, I think we committed, I have 4 original co-founders, something I would not recommend to anybody. So, can't, well, no, I was one of 4.
Okay, you're one of 4.
One
So
of
what's
4.
the problem?
It's too many cooks in the kitchen. It's,
So to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Can't say too much because it's one of my co-founders' younger brothers in the audience. So, no, but it's just, it takes longer to get to a decision.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get 4 people on the same page. When it comes down to things like logo color design, little things like that take more time.
Important things, right?
Yeah, very important things, yes. So, back to where I was going, so 4 co-founders, I would not recommend that to the audience. But we then pitched to Techstars and ERA. We got an offer from ERA first, we couldn't turn it down. It was $25,000, 8% of the company. But at that point, we were nothing but wireframes and a team. They invested in the idea and the team. And then throughout the incubator, after we got our seed funding of $25,000, we had a product built, a very talented engineer. Then we launched, basically, we did our demo day presentation for 4 restaurants using our system. And it's been 2 years and we're over 1,000 restaurants now.
My advice is get traction before you go for funding. I guess, unless you're going to go the incubator route where you can go in with an idea
It's a
and some
shortcut route,
sketch.
yeah.
Right. Unless you're going to do that, then that's certainly the way to go. If you're not going to do that, don't be like, all right, I got this idea and I drew it out and I'm going to go pitch a bunch of VCs. Like, don't do that. It's not going to work. It's just a waste of your time. It's a waste of their time. And unless you just like getting shot down, go for it. But I mean, get some traction. There's so many easy ways to get things rolling in your business before going out there and needing extra cash. I mean, I see some companies that are like, I want to get this started, but I need like $1 million to build out my website and to do some marketing. And I'm like, really? Like, no one's gonna do that. Like, I mean, I see people who are like 16 years old, they could bang out a website from 4 days. Like, get it done. Like, there's so many easy ways to do these things that require no money at all. People are like, oh, I'm just sitting here waiting. I need to raise like $5,000. I'm like, $5,000? Yeah, like borrow it from your mom or something. Like, just something. Like it's crazy. Just so many, and some people just like sit there and they do nothing and they just wait.
There's an interesting stat that AngelList did where it basically said what traction points did all the companies have. I don't even know, just try to Google this. What it takes to raise $1 million in AngelList. And it was really interesting to see, like, if you're an e-commerce company, I can't remember what it was, $100,000 in monthly sales. If you have a consumer app, it was 1 million app downloads. So they took the average of basically all the different traction points and then said what you need to get to raise $1 million. But the problem is, don't raise $1 million. If you only need $5,000, go raise $5,000. Go do a convertible debt financing and raise 50.
We're giving away less or none.
We're giving away a range that will then later be determined by kind of wisdom of the crowds, where it's hard to put a valuation on a company at the beginning, which is why most people do convertible debt. We raised $1 million to date, and we've raised in 4 different tranches. So we basically have been raise, and then we would hit a milestone, and then we would raise, we'd hit another milestone, and it allowed us to basically kind of, instead of going after a big chunk at once and try to do a price equity round very early on, we're able to do convertible debt financing and actually raise our terms. So we went from like a 5 million cap up to a 10 million cap, things like that. So you can structure it so as your company grows, the financing is relatively company friendly.
By the way, a lot of investors actually will invest in those types of rounds. Like convertible notes are not as cool as some.
You've done 4 convertible notes.
I'm actually shocked that you did 4. Investors kept investing in another convertible note to an eventual bridge to almost nowhere to another note. It's just, as an investor, if I saw like you bring in your 3rd convertible note, I would probably not have invested.
Yeah,
How are you guys
25 note holders, we're doing fine.
You guys are getting paid on what, monthly fees for restaurants?
Monthly SaaS fees.
So I finance my companies a little differently than they did. I am in the consumer good product space. Sukitz I finance. My first partners in Sukitz are no longer my partners because they didn't up here, they didn't hold up their end of the bargain basically at the end of the day, and in fact sabotaged us going into about 3,000 stores because of insurance. I partner with my manufacturers, so I give manufacturers equity in the brand. And for giving them equity in my brand, I then expect better rates and I get long terms, because when you're selling to stores, you know, you can get 30-day terms, 60-day terms, 90-day terms. You know, I get 90-day terms from my manufacturer, so it's a way to kind of give myself cash flow.
Yeah, but how did you break into the whole?
How did I get my initial financing?
Yeah.
I got my, I'm like swerving this chair. How talking finance always makes me nervous. How did I get my initial capital? Well, I was a model, and I had money. But like, you know what? I would call in favors for friends. So I was a marketing consultant, and people paid me to consult for them. So I would say to my friend who was a graphic designer, "You do my logo, I'll do this." You know, so it's kind of, I did a barter thing. You know, I can help you with this, if this thing. I did a lot of bartering.
The whole kitchen thing, because I'm learning about that. For you to sell anything commercially, I guess you need a kitchen. So
Well,
how'd you
factories are a little different than kitchens. Like, I'm doing mass manufacturing. Like, we produce, I mean, in my Lollipop facility, we can't manufacture less than 50,000 lollipops at a time.
So you get the ingredients and then they just kind of do the thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you spell it?
Sukitz?
I just Googled it and it didn't come up.
It's S-U-K-I-T-Z, lollipop.
Oh, with a Z.
Yeah, it's gonna be S-U-K-I-T-Z L-O-L-L-I-E-P-O-P-Z.
Okay.
And we're,
It wasn't a silly question.
but it's also Sukitz, S-U-K-I-T-Z, Sukitz. Yeah, .com. It's catchy and clever. But for my new product line, the dye product line, I'm gonna email Lauren 25% off. So when we launch in a month and a half, you'll all know what I'm talking about. I assure you, it's all about emulating food, and I'm sure you guys will all be very impressed.
All right, so what was the weirdest, wackiest, craziest thing that happened in the course of starting each of these businesses? And Anna, you're smirking, so. I know
I don't know
online
if I have that
cookbooks
story
are
yet.
really wacky,
Yeah.
you know, and hardcore partying types of people. So I want the nitty gritty.
The
No?
weirdest thing
Did I?
that's happened. Why are you
Does anybody have a weird and wacky story? Like a really weird, like
come on, you guys must have
weird
a
story?
amazing
Yeah, you gotta, I want to be freaked out.
I have a little Wayne story.
Yeah.
So I live in, well, does anyone else want to go first?
That little Wayne story sounds pretty awesome.
Okay, so obviously when I did the brand Sukitz, it was intended to be a little dirty, and I was at a pool at the Mondrian, and Little Wayne and his music producer, Detail, came up and started to talk to me, because I don't know, they wanted to talk to me. And there's a side of the hotel where all the celebrities stay, and I was basically living at the Mondrian. So I was at that wing, and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" I was like, "Well, I own Sukitz." And of course it went over great with these rappers. So they're like popping their Don Perignon, they're smoking their cigars, and like, whatever, around 2 in the morning, and I start hearing Sukitz, like screaming, "I got something you can suck," like banging on my door. And it was Little Wayne, like with all his gold teeth, and "Hey, Ma."
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was Sukitz. That's like the weirdest, craziest, wackiest thing.
See that endorser?
I don't stay at the Mondrian anymore.
Those weren't cigars.
My stories are not that interesting.
I mean, I have
One time I was converting the dead.
Wow.
You should have seen the write-up.
Early on, I mean, this isn't too weird or wacky, but early on, there could probably be a lesson here somewhere, but our system obviously needs Wi-Fi to work, and if you don't have a connection to the wait list, the iPad, you know, you can do 4G, then the whole system crashes. So people often call us thinking that our system has quote-unquote crashed, when in actuality their Wi-Fi is down. So very early on, we were doing everything bending over backwards for every one of our first 10 customers. And some of them had crappy Wi-Fi, so we were literally buying high-powered routers and going and acting as like, putting on our IT, restaurant installation hat and going and putting in a new system.
How about iPads too? Do you provide them iPads?
Early on, yes, more people have iPads, more restaurants have iPads now, which is like kind of where our self-serve models work really well. So anyway, we went in on like a Wednesday, and we did, if you were looking at a restaurant, there's wires everywhere, and the back offices are really terrible looking things. Yeah, they're closets, exactly. So we're in this closet, I'm like ripping wires out, trying to put this Wi-Fi thing in. And I ended up walking out of the restaurant, feeling like the owner wasn't there and the GM was there at the time. And I walked out of the restaurant and I got all the way home and I was sitting there. All of a sudden, I look at my phone, it was like silent. I had like 10 missed calls. I'm like, what's going on? And I had 5 voicemails, and I had somehow, when I called Verizon, I shut off their internet completely, which is hooked up to their POS and everything. So literally, I shut the restaurant down for like an hour, and they were like pulling out the old school like credit card swipe. It was awful. So we came running back down there. I was on the phone with Verizon and got their internet turned back on somehow. We have no idea why it happened, but I guess don't try to do things that you think you can do when you're starting a startup. Hire a professional. I guess that's the lesson.
Any other questions from the audience?
So, two-part. It's two-faced just because there's an investor in the middle. So, where are you guys? If you guys just found a pot of money and you could spend it on whatever, what would you spend it on? And to the VC, what are people not spending money on that they should?
Not that you won the lottery.
Can't go hang out with Lil Wayne. So what are people not spending money on that they should be? What are they not focusing on?
I'm sorry, you're talking as from like what investors are not spending money on, or what companies are not spending their own money on?
So as an investor, when you look at business, what are they not spending their money? When they bring you a budget, when they bring you
I would say they are spending lots of money on salaries. We had one come the other day and it was like, all right, startup here, we're raising like $1 million, and you look at their numbers, and they're paying the 2 co-founders $100,000 a year each. And I was like, that's a lot of money. Like, all right, I understand, it's New York, you have to pay the rent, right? But like, $100 grand, that's a pretty good salary for a startup that you're raising your seed round on, right? So that's certainly kind of something that you probably, it turned us off. We were like, not all that interested anymore.
But I think that's what type of
so where
business
should
that
they
hasn't
spend?
I'm sorry, where should they be spending it?
So they're focusing on the wrong thing. What should they be focusing on?
Hiring quality talent, marketing.
Yeah, bringing on other people. You're a founder, you own the company, you have the stock. You want this to be a $1 billion company. Don't take a $100,000 salary right off the get-go.
So a follow-up to that is like, what would you be happy seeing, or like you don't expect someone to
they can't, you can't live off nothing, right? So we understand that.
But why no owners that have? I'm asking like what, like where
no,
do you
well,
see
look,
it
if you've got personal cash, I've met everyone from like, look, I've just got a lot of money, I'm okay with not taking a salary, to, I'm moving in with my folks, or I'm sleeping on a mattress, and that's my entire life, it's my mattress and my friend's bathroom, like halfway in the bathroom, like, so I mean, I've seen it all, and I appreciate, I definitely, I guess appreciate the really poor, starving entrepreneur more than the person who's like, well, I've got millions of dollars in the bank, I can afford to really not take a salary for a while. That's great, but why are you coming to me for 200 grand? So I guess the other, that's another. Oh, that could be my weird story. Hold on, can I segue?
Yeah. Give me a number first.
No, there's no number. Again, if you live in New York City by yourself, you got a roommate. We got a roommate. You take you're taking 50, 70 grand a year, and. Because if you live in the city, you live in the city. If you have to move out to Queens or Brooklyn and take something that's a little less expensive, or you have to commute it for a little bit, you got to do what you got to do. You just got to make sure that you're taking enough money where you're not sacrificing 4 months of operating capital on this business because you're taking a high-powered salary and you just can't live without it because you couldn't move to Brooklyn or something.
So not to kill your weird
60 to
story
75
segue.
pre-Series A seems about industry, and then post-Series A between 70 and 100. That's what I've seen. And then in terms of a rule of thumb for burn, this is the Fred Wilson rule of thumb. It's about 10,000 a head all in. So if you've got 7 employees, you should be burning about $70,000. That's kind of the Series A kind of calculation.
So forget the salary for a second. Where are people not investing?
not investing.
So,
Like, let's say you came to me with like, maybe another share button, you know, like, or just another thing, like another social media company, or another social network. As an investor,
He wants to know what
as a
areas
business
of business should he be investing in?
Marketing and bringing on quality tech people in marketing. You know, at the end, that's it.
Talent is so important.
Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
I
the point.
think
The talent is everything.
Talent is a big part of it. I mean, if you don't have, I mean, that, especially for early stage companies, I mean, you can kind of speak to it, but that's one of the biggest points. You know, traction obviously is very important, but if you could have crazy traction, but if you're sitting in front of the person and you don't trust them, or if they just seem a little off, you know, you need to have quality people running the company as well.
You know where she's saving a lot of money? Marketing. Because she has an amazing marketer on her team, right? So I've seen so many people that have great product and nobody knows about it. You have to spend money on getting people you have to hire somebody that has the connections, that understands how to market things and get things out there to get people to buy it. You have to make sure that people that you built a good product, that when actually somebody does buy it, that it doesn't suck and they don't return it. You know, there's a couple of things that need to be, that you shouldn't skimp on.
So here, marketing, tech.
Marketing and talent, marketing and tech.
Marketing, tech.
And you can find some, you know, some. It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to hire. You know, I'm a startup. You don't have to hire the $180,000, you know, tech guy or the marketing guru. You can do a little bit better than that. But if you have no money, you have no money, right? What are you gonna do? Maybe they come on as a co-founder and get some stock.
That's what I'm saying. You gotta be okay giving away stock, especially if you're like a single founder. You have a great idea. Especially if you're a single business founder that needs a technical founder, you got to be willing to give up.
So know thyself and then give up other places.
Yeah, and then the other thing to not spend money on is real estate. Do not buy a big office.
And a launch party.
Yeah, or like a launch party.
Everybody has a freaking launch party nowadays, like
or swag.
Have a sell party, like I just sold my company party. Have one of those.
So I see people investing more in subscription apps than regular apps. Like an app that has like a model that people pay for and segmented communities, I think you're gonna be seeing more of a demand for. Because right now, like that, oh, I have an app, yeah, just take it is over. Like every area that you can have an app in, there's an app for. I mean, everybody's built an app. My sister's building an app. There's an app to build an app. Like you can't really make a mark, and that's why I'm in food. Have I had an app? Yes. Has it been stolen? Yes, and it's very successful. But now you can actually break a market with a subscription app, and what he's doing is really cool. And can he add a subscription and create more rev programs within what he's doing? Yes.
What kind of subscription is that?
I don't know, we can talk about it later when I consult for you.
Well, we are.
And what she's doing is hitting a different market segment that hasn't really been reached. And I don't know if you realize it, and she actually has revenue extensions that she can bring onto whatever brand she's creating.
You play with the idea of letting people pay to jump on the line?
Have we thought of that? Yes. Are we actually going to do it? So that's a pretty radical change in consumer behavior. The short answer is probably not any time, and
I would totally.
It's been.
When I go down there, it's like, oh, I want to eat here. It's like, oh, it's like an hour and a half, maybe. You know, like I'll throw in $20 to sit down now.
Exactly. So that gets into
the
whole.
restaurant.
You gotta bid that up.
Yes, exactly. So
no, they don't tell anyone.
You gotta make that
there are two sides. Try telling that to TGI Fridays. Seriously, if you talk to a company like that, they're very concerned with their guest experience.
Right.
And if you're bidding for tables, I mean, yeah, we've thought about some wacky ideas of trying to turn a restaurant basically into like an airplane. And a lot of high-end restaurants are actually starting to do a prepaid kind of ticket model where if you don't show up, it's non-refundable. The reservation market is starting to get fed up with the 10 to 20% of no-shows, which is just money that restaurants are losing. So they're starting to do some things there. We thought about figuring out ways to cut the line and things like that.
Is it that low?
What's that?
Is it that low? 10 to 15% is.
10 to 20% of no-shows. So if you consider that with how small,
That seems low.
do you guys know how small?
I'm not saying it's not significant
restaurants
revenue. I'm just saying it seems like a low number in terms of people that don't actually show up.
10 to 20% of people across the industry do not show up for the reservations, so.
Again, not denigrating the revenue impact of that, it's just, it seems like a small number.
Yeah, it's a very high number if you think about a restaurant that's leaving 20% of tables open.
And if it's a small restaurant.
Small
it's
restaurant,
even worse. Like a big restaurant, like Fridays may not notice.
I expect it to be 30-40% not showing up.
Yeah, and the thing with reservation restaurants, so there's two different restaurants. There's basically high table turn, low table turn. The high-end restaurants that are taking reservations, they need those tables filled because they only do about 2 turns in a night, where a casual dining restaurant may do 3 or 4 turns in a night. So, you know, for a high-end restaurant to have one of those tables sitting empty for an hour, it crushes them.
All right, guys, we got to wrap it up. Warner, I want to thank you very much for that, and everybody else. It was incredible.